I'm Hog, this is the dice. See the way I'm just kind of casually tossing this around? Imagine if I were doing this with my own severed head while sitting astride a gigantic black horse, and you'll have a pretty good mental image of today's subject, the Dullahan. The topic of this Irish folklore video was voted on by my patrons on Patreon. If you want to be able to have some kind of sway over what Irish folklore topics I cover in future, then consider signing up. It only costs $1 a month to help me decide what the hell I'm doing. The Dullahan is a tall, imposing figure, usually male, but sometimes female, dressed in a long black coat, riding a huge black horse, or sometimes a horse-drawn carriage. Sometimes, if it's on the carriage, the horses will have no heads. Sometimes they'll have heads. It depends. It depends on the story. The Dullahan carries its own still living severed head. The head is hideously deformed, with a grin from ear to ear, and skin the texture of old, moldy cheese. An image I'd like to point out, not terribly unlike the traditional turnip jack-o'-lanterns that we talked about in the Stingy Jack video. The name Dullahan comes from the Old Irish Dullahan, which means dark man, but it's also known as Ganceann, which literally means headless. The Dullahan, like the Banshee, is a fairy, and also, like the Banshee, it is associated with death. But unlike the Banshee, it is an active participant in the death process. There's that association between fairies and death again. I wonder what that could possibly mean. The Dullahan is unlikely to kill anybody, but it is a psychopomp. A psychopomp being a mythological figure that transports the dead from this world onto the next. Once you're dead, they'll drag your spirit out of your body and out to wherever it is it's supposed to go. And I do mean that literally. Dullahan are only able to speak once per night, and they use this to shout the name of the person they are there to collect, which will usually drag that person's spirit out from their body and in front of the Dullahan. Also, unlike the Banshee, seeing the Dullahan actually is potentially very dangerous. Not only does seeing the Dullahan mean that it is definitely about to participate in somebody's death, it also hates being looked at. Stare too hard or too long at the Dullahan, and the Dullahan might douse you with blood. And not just any blood, blood with hallucinogenic properties. So you will follow up your sighting of a headless rider thundering down the road past you with tripping fucking balls while doused in blood. And being soaked in hallucinogenic blood is the nicer thing that might happen to you if you piss off the Dullahan. The Dullahan is known to carry a whip made out of human vertebrae that it uses to strike out the eyes of anybody who watches it too long or gets in its way. Escaping the Dullahan is more or less impossible. Its eyes can see further than any humans and are not hampered by darkness or cloud or fog or rain. It will often ride up to the top of a hill and hold its head up high, turning it from side to side to find its prey. There's only one way to stop the Dullahan, and whatever it is you're thinking, unless you already know about all of this lore, in which case you're right, you're probably wrong. One night in County Galway, an old man was on his way home when he heard a thunder of hooves on the road behind him. He turned to greet the rider when he realized there was something strange. The rider was dressed in a long black greatcoat, riding on a black horse with black reins, saddle and bridle. Not a glint of light was reflected from horse or rider, as if every bit of metal in the horse's tack had been oil blacked at the forge. More than that, the figure seemed to eat light. Horse and rider both darker than black, darker than the night around them. But the second thing the old man noticed was the strange shape of the rider, as if something were missing. It wasn't until he saw the hideous grinning head hanging from the horse's bridle that the old man realized the rider had no head upon its shoulders. The old man turned to run because he had finally realised this was a Dullahan. He ran for the church, hoping beyond hope that the sacred ground would repel this terrifying fairy creature. But the old man stumbled and fell in a pothole on the road, dropping his purse behind him. Suddenly, the monster's horse reared and the hideous head shrieked in fright. They stared down at a single gold coin that had fallen from the old man's purse and laid between the Dullahan and the man. The Dullahan, for some reason, terrified by the gold, turned and rode away faster than it had ridden in pursuit. What I really love about this story is that nobody has a better explanation for the ending other than Dullahan's just having a rational fear of gold. There's no like pure metal burning the unclean creature like you've got with vampires and silver. There's no like causing of physical pain on contact like there is with fairies and iron. People literally just say the Dullahan has an irrational fear of gold. It's like a reverse pirate. The Dullahan, terrifying harbinger of death, juggler of its own severed head, possible representative of the god Crom Dubh, is aurophobic. That's just beautiful. Thanks for watching this video on the Dullahan. I'd also like to thank Leanne Hamilton for contributing the excellent art that was used, and I'd also like to thank my patrons, especially Mohlak Morvakavus, Casper Maynard, Neil McConvera, and Amantis, as well as all of my other patrons. If you liked this video, please like it and maybe, you know, share it and comment, leave comments, that would be nice. If you want to help decide what further videos I make on this, or you just want to fund my total fucking batshit nonsense, please consider supporting me on Patreon. And remember that your applause is the only way to counteract my daily chant of I don't believe in fairies.
Dullahan, I see you, and I run. My second in